So today is today is part two, which is about the Ocean Church and the substantive plan of Ocean Providence, section 3. So today we're going to be talking about the significance of the 20 years of North American Ocean Providence. So before we actually get into it, we're going to talk about, what was the start of North American Ocean Providence, right? True parents had started this Ocean Providence in North America by promising God something for the 20-year course. True Father says, I look at the vast ocean resources as God's blessings, waiting for the unification church. I have promised to God, give me 20 years time and we will conquer the sea, taking dominion over it and returning the glory to you. That is how I think every time I go out. Later, we will establish a great foundation, and even the Ford or Rockefeller foundations will look like peanuts in comparison. That is the way we must realistically feel. So True Father, on August 1st, 1974, promised to God that he would establish an oceanic foundation during the next 20 years and then launch the North American Ocean Providence. So, the basis and the start of the American Ocean Providence was basically this grand 20-year promise that True Father had made to God. So this is a bit of a review. So first off, right, we cannot make appropriate decisions about Ocean Providence without first understanding True Parents' purpose about Ocean Providence, their plan for Ocean Providence, and the current situation of Ocean Providence. And the purpose becomes clear by knowing the motivation and the hearts of True Parents and understanding that the hunger problem, what the hunger problem is that they're trying to resolve. And then the plan can be understood by analyzing True Father's words, his actions, and where he invested in the past. And the current situation can be understood by knowing the history and through analyzing how far the plan has come and where it might have failed. So only after we understand all of this, it becomes truly clear what, you and I, what we must do right now as a movement. So today we're going to be discussing the North American Ocean Providence's 20-year course and the purpose of that 20-year course and the plan during that 20-year course. So in today's episode, we'll be covering the two following points. One is what was the purpose of the 20 years of North American Ocean Providence, and number two, what was the 20th anniversary expo event for the North American Ocean Providence. So first, let's talk about the context, right? The history of the Unification Church as a whole and the North American Ocean Providence in that context. So True Father started HSA UWC, Holy Spirit Association of Unification World Christianity, in 1954. And that was basically the start of the first 40-year course as HSA UWC. In 1971, True Parents moved to America, and the Providence in North America started there. Then 1974, August 1st, was the start of the North American Ocean Providence, where I mentioned earlier, True Parents made that promise to God about the next 20 years. And since then was the 20 years of North American Ocean Providence. And in 1994, on May 1st, right, exactly 40 years after 1954, when HSA UWC was established, True Father renamed our movement as FFWPU, right, Family Federation for World Peace and Unification. And then on August 1st, that same year, right, was also the mark of the 20th anniversary expo of Ocean Providence in North America. And then in 1995, the following year, on March 31st, was the Sao Paulo Declaration, which was basically the declaration starting of the second 40-year course and the beginning of the North and South America's unification movement. So that was the second 40-year course as FFWPU. So today we're going to be talking about that, that 20-year period, right? 20 years of North American Ocean Providence. So in the previous episodes, we discussed how much True Parents had invested into the oceanic businesses, projects, and how much they expected from Ocean Church. But today we'll be focusing on the 20-year course that began in the United States in 1974. Right? What was the purpose of that 20-year course? So True Father says, I have lived my life with one thought. I want to bring about a world of peace, a world where there are no wars and where all humankind lives in love. From the time I was old enough to know what was going on in the world, there's been only one objective for my life. That is for the world to live in peace, as one. I never wanted anything else. What I want is to wipe away completely the walls and fences that divide the world in myriad ways and to create a world of unity. I want to tear down the walls between religions and between races and fill in the gap between the rich and the poor. Once that is done, we can reestablish the world of peace that God created in the beginning. I'm talking about a world where no one goes hungry and no one sheds tears. So True Parents' goal is pretty clear, right? It's very obvious, right? Of course, True Parents' goal is to create and to establish a substantial world peace. However, how can world peace be achieved? It's a really big goal that no one in the world has been able to achieve. Well, according to Father's autobiography, a world of peace that God hoped for consists of, tearing down walls between religions, right, which is the unity of religions, and between races, which is the unity of all humanity, and to fill in the gap between the rich and the poor, so resolving, the poverty and hunger problems. And once that is done, world peace can be reestablished. So what is our goal then as Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, right? So the goals of True Parents and FFWPU are the same. They should be the same, right? And we are the Family Federation for World Peace and World Unification. So our goals are basically the unification of religions, unification of humankind, and the resolution of poverty and hunger. And True Father, in order to, actually be able to resolve all these things, right? Establish all these world peace and world unification, he had to have an actual concrete plan in order to realize that substantial world peace and unification. So he had to have a plan. Now, some might ask, right, isn't FFWPU, right, which is seen by the world as a religious organization, isn't it just a spiritual, internal, and religious movement? Well, True Father, clears it up by saying, I am the founder of this gigantic spiritual movement, but I am also laying the foundation to solve future physical problems of the world. I know that all this is basic for future food production and solving hunger in the world. Since I am so enthusiastic and have so many plans about the ocean, anyone who comes to the Unification Church cannot help but pay attention to the ocean. So clearly, right, True Parents were planning to not just engage and invest into the spiritual movement, but also resolve practical and physical future problems of the world. So True Parents have been struggling all this time to resolve both internal and external problems of the world as the Messiah, as the savior of the world. So then what do you think are the many plans that True Father was talking about? Well, the final goal is world peace, right? And True Father had this grand plan, and there were many, many aspects of this grand plan, right? Like ACLC, UPF, IAPP, and one very big part of that grand plan was Ocean Providence. Now, what did True Father say about peace and unification pertaining to ocean, right? He says, the oceans can become a central point for bringing the world together. He says, we cannot build a world of peace without first resolving the food issue. True peace will not come as long as humanity does not solve the problem of hunger. If the person next to me is about to die of hunger, peace is a mere luxury. This is the fastest way to bring people and nations together. I am always thinking how this can be done, and that is why I am making a foundation on the ocean. When we make this foundation, our direction toward the future will be straight. I believe this will be a shortcut to guiding all people toward a world of peace. That is why for several decades, I've been researching, planning, and pioneering all sorts of ocean-related businesses. So in summary, right, basically True Father is saying that the ocean is the fastest way, the shortcut, and the central point toward this goal of world peace and unification. And that in order to achieve world peace and unification, we must solve the hunger problem. It's the most precious work and is absolutely necessary. So in summary, we can conclude that a large part of the plan for achieving the goals of world peace and unification is related to the ocean and solving the food problem. So when we read True Father's words, we can say, a large part of that plan, in order to achieve the goals, is related to ocean and the resolution of the hunger problem. So we can assume that the 20-year North American Ocean Providence course from 1974 to 1994 also shared that same goal, right, to solve world hunger. But practically speaking, right, let's take a look at, number one, what did True Parents do? And number two, what was their goal? Through reading True Father's words. So first of all, True Father explains multiple times that he had this plan to dominate the oceans and to establish a global economic foundation in 20 years. He explains this in God's Will and the Ocean. He says, I look at the vast ocean resources as God's blessing, waiting for the Unification Church. I've promised to God, give me 20 years' time and we will conquer the sea, taking dominion over it and returning the glory to you. That is how I think every time I go out. Later, we will establish a great foundation, and even the Ford or Rockefeller Foundation will look like peanuts in comparison. That is the way we must realistically feel. So, it looks like, right, his goal was to basically dominate the seas and its resources and create a global economic foundation within the 20 years. And he also, during that 20 years, he also attempted to become the master of North American marine resources, right? He says the North America has 3 of the great fishing grounds in the world, right? These are the waters off Alaska, the waters of the Atlantic from Nobska Point up to Canada, and the Gulf of Mexico. You do not know how abundant the marine resources in these locations are. If you really knew, you would be astonished. A vein of gold would dry up after several decades of digging, but ocean resources are eternal. They have no owner. That is why I've made a 20-year plan and have now been investing in the marine industry for 15 years. So he's saying, right, true parents invested into the marine business continuously for those 20 years so that they would be able to, so that they would be able to manage the rich marine resources of the United States. And as True Father mentions in, this quote, the United States has a very, very large, like, resource of ocean, right? And like the territory, right? And if you look it up, I'm not exactly sure the number, but I think the amount of ocean that, America not owns, but that they do that they do fishing in and stuff is like almost 2/3 of America itself, which is kind of amazing, right? Now, so this is an overview of True Father's activities over the 20 years from 1974 to 1994. So in 1974 to 1979, True Father was constantly on the New Hope. First he was training himself on the ocean, fishing, pioneering different locations. Right in 1980, he started developing One Hope boats. 1980, he also established Ocean Church, and in 81, he started Ocean Training for members. Right, and then since then, he's been using those members that he trained, not using, but with those members that he trained. They established a bunch of different businesses, right? And these, it's a lot already, but these are just examples, some examples where true parents invested, like fisheries, hobbies, tourism. Now, what was the economic foundation? So we talked about all this, right? Big economic foundation and using North American marine resources, right? But why did True Father want to have the economic foundation? Why did he want those North American resources for, right? So during that 20-year period, True Parents invested in a wide range of fishery businesses, hobby tourism industries, centering on Ocean Church and Ocean Training, in order to dominate the U.S. marine resources and to establish a large economic foundation. But what were these resources and economic foundations for? Right? What was it for? North American Providence? Was it to support the North American Providence? Was it to maintain and expand the religious organization? Well, those are part of the reason why he did it. But the main reason, right, is because, True Father said he was preparing all of these resources, all of this foundation to solve world hunger. And he says this in 1991. He says, every year, 20 million people die of starvation. That is 60,000 people a day. Is the president of the United States going to take responsibility for that? Will Gorbachev of the Soviet Union take responsibility? Who will take responsibility for this? Who in the world is going to do that? The true parents and the siblings of the true parents have to take responsibility for it. For this reason, all our work with the sea is something I have been planning and preparing for over the last 20 years. So he was basically essentially preparing those 20 years, all that foundation, all that resources, that economic foundation in order to resolve the problem of world hunger. In 1992, he says, again, that he invested in order to solve hunger problem. He says the primary resources in the sea are limited. One fish lays millions of individual eggs. Normally, these eggs are eaten up by other fish and creatures in the sea. If they were protected, though, under human control, the supply of these resources would be unlimited and always available. Also, it is now possible to connect even the mountains with the sea by piping systems, and there above our cities, make high elevation tanks where unlimited numbers of fish can be raised. The way I see it, this is the only viable way that humankind will be able to solve the food supply problem. That is why I have invested $2 billion over the last 20 years to develop this area. And then in 1993, he said that, he was doing all of this during the 20 years in order to bring peace in all fields. He says, so do you understand what I mean by hobby industry? I believe that being the first to make such a worldwide organization is the shortcut in leading to peace in all fields, including the world's money market and human resources. That is why I have been preparing this ocean plan for 20 years. In April of the coming year, it will be exactly 20 years. So along with this hobby industry, I'm thinking of doing farming as a hobby. He said that that 20-year Oceanic Foundation is to lead to peace in all fields. And then in 1994, he said that he's been building this foundation for world peace again, right? You should have good business sense. You should be able to save the 20 million lives that die each year, right? He's talking to members, right? You should make sure that people do not die of hunger by teaching them how to farm the land, how to breed fish and water. Why would they starve to death when their wives and children are able to fish? Why die when there is water and an abundance of fish? That is why we do fishing. You must teach them how to fish. So he was telling the members that we have the responsibility to do this, right? You must also teach them hunting. Many animals, such as alligators, are found there in abundance. Therefore, the Sightseeing and Hunting Association for World Peace is for the sake of bringing about a peaceful world. Why are we doing such work? For 20 years, I have lost money, yet I have made a foundation. True parents must be responsible for those people on earth who are dying of starvation. We cannot give up because all the people in the world are brothers and sisters. So here, that his activities over the 20 years was all for world peace. In 1994, he again said, he says that, the reason why he was making nets and building boats were all for saving people who were starving to death, right? Everything he did had a purpose, and this was his purpose, right? I have the results of 20 years of activity for the purpose of saving people who are dying because of lack of food. There's an inexhaustible supply of raw material in the marine products industry. People in America now believe in Reverend Moon. Up to now, I have been creating a worldwide foundation making everything from nets to boats. I know that the marine products industry has now entered a stage where it can no longer be disregarded. So he says, that when he was making those nets, building these boats and investing in these different industries, in the marine industry, right, for those 20 years in North America, it was all to save people who starved due to the hunger problem. So in this way, True Father stated multiple times that the North American Ocean Providence was not just for North America, but to solve the global hunger problem. And North America's Oceanic Foundation was ultimately a preparation to serve the world, right? That 20-year foundation of creating a global economic foundation and dominating those rich marine resources of the United States was essentially to become the hope of the world and to become a method toward resolving world peace and world hunger. In other words, if the foundations cultivated right in North America are not used for the global hunger problem, we can logically conclude that True Parents' original wish is not being fulfilled. So, that was kind of like the history, right? And the purpose behind the 20 years of North American Ocean Providence. And after the 20 years of North American Ocean Providence, right, in 1995, the year right after, March 31st, the Sao Paulo Declaration was made, which was the declaration of the second 40-year course, beginning North and South Americans' unification movement. So after that 20-year period of North American Ocean Providence, True Father established FFWPU and began the South American Providence, right? And that was the start of the second 40-year course as FFWPU. Now, on April 4th, 1996, True Father says, the first 40 years of my life until now was a time of tribulations, centering on the developed countries in the Northern Hemisphere, as well as centering on the land. That is why for 20 years, I've been preparing for the oceanic civilization sphere in South America. So he's preparing that 20 years for the sake of South America. He says, I've been paving the way for the oceanic age to save all the countries within the tropical climate zone. And that 20-year course was to pave the path of tribulation. So he's essentially saying, right, that 20-year preparation period, right, developing Ocean Providence in North America from 1974 to 1994 was to save all the countries within the tropical climate zone. And where is that, right? The tropical climate zone is in the south, right? So in 1995, True Father began the North and South American unification movement at the Sao Paulo Declaration in order, to essentially take those resources, take that foundation, and bring it to that tropical climate zone, down to South America. Now, I keep saying Sao Paulo Declaration, right? So let's talk about what exactly the Sao Paulo Declaration of 1995 is, right? It happened in Sao Paulo, Brazil, on March 31st, 1995. And the Sao Paulo Declaration basically outlined the second 40-year course as FFWPU. And it talked about four main points. Number one is, the declaration of the actual official start of the second 40-year course as FFWPU. Point two is the fact that the second generation and the blessed families now have the central responsibility for that second 40-year course. So rather than the central responsibility being true parents, now during this current 40-year course, the central responsibility is in the blessed families, and it's us, the members. The third point is that the front line of our movement has moved to South America from North America. So it's no longer when this declaration was made, it was no longer North America, but it moved to South America. And the fourth and final point was, the declaration of the start of the North and South American unification movement, or the providence of unifying the Christian cultural realm and all other religions. And then 1995, right? So, I don't know how many of you guys were actually alive back then, but I think people who were around back then, are aware of the fact that, True Father was spending so much time in America, investing so much in North America, but then suddenly in 1995, he suddenly started going to South America, and he started investing more in South America. He brought leaders from North America to South America, right? Suddenly he had to switch, right? From North America, he started doing more things in South America. So there's a reason for this, right? And the reason was because True Father actually wanted to move all that foundation from North America to South America. He says, on the foundation of the Sao Paulo Declaration, I will make a great move to the front line of South America. I've already announced that I am leaving North America and will move to South America. I've downsized the organizations and agencies in North America, shifting the economic and human resources that were invested there to South America. So he intended, with a purpose, to put all of the economic strength and human resources that were cultivated during the 20 years in North America into South America. And the reason why is because he saw that by doing this, it was taking steps toward world unification as FFWPU. And he basically explains, now, if North America and South America can become one through my efforts, then North Korea and South Korea on the Korean Peninsula can unify, and Israel and the Muslim world can unite. The unity of Europe will not be a problem either. This will happen all at once. He also says the prevailing culture derives from Christianity, and the leader in transforming modern society is North America. South America has opposed North America until now. If these two continents were to become one, they would form a great power base. If this were to happen, Europe, North America, and South America, and then Asia would naturally join the Christian cultural realm. That is why I must unite the cultural realm of Christianity in North America and South America, and then connect it to Asia. I need to unite Asia with North America and South America. Without doing this, there is no future. So to explain basically what he's saying, right? So during that 20-year, from 1974 to 1994, True Father spent 20 years of, Ocean Providence in the United States as preparation, right? And then with that preparation, starting in 1995, Sao Paulo Declaration, he started the unification movement for North and South America. So basically, the idea was, if North America and South America can become one, then the unification of Christian cultural realm can become one. So the idea was basically kind of like the story of Jacob and Esau, right? Jacob cultivated, a lot of resources. He had a lot of wealth. He had, a lot of cattle, a lot of money, right? And essentially, what was able to happen, right? The unity between Jacob and Esau was able to happen because Jacob, the able figure, offered all that he accumulated, all that wealth he accumulated to his elder brother, to the Cain figure, which was Esau, and then they were able to unite and become one. So essentially, North America, which represents the Protestant Abel, was meant to unite with South America, the Catholic King, right? by giving those resources, by investing that foundation to South America. And once that is able to happen, once that Christian cultural realm is able to unite centered on North and South America, then the unity of Europe, which is the old Christian cultural realm, would be able to happen. And once that happens, naturally, Israel and the Muslim world would be able to unite, leading to the solution of Middle Eastern conflicts. And then Asia would naturally join the Christian cultural realm. And then the Korean Peninsula can then unify. So basically, this is kind of the vision. This is kind of the direction that True Father was seeing in his mind when he was talking about Ocean Providence, and the unification of North and South America. And he was saying, this will all happen at once. So, True Father says, right, this is the fastest way to bring people and nations together. I am always thinking how this can be done, and that is why I am making a foundation on the ocean. When we make this foundation, our direction toward the future will be straight. So True Father had stated on various occasions that the foundation on the ocean is the fastest way to bring people and nations together. Right after the 20-year period of the United States Ocean Providence was over, True Parents moved that main front line from North America to South America for this purpose. And then they began that providence to unify the world starting from South America. So that was basically the significance of the 20-year course of North American Ocean Providence. So just to summarize all that content, right? The 20-year period of the United States Ocean Providence from 1974 to 1994 was to develop the marine hobby and tourism industries, to gain dominion over the U.S. marine resources, establish a global economic foundation centered on the ocean in order to use that foundation to solve the global hunger problem and prepare for world unification that would be launched from South America. So far, what we've been looking at is the 20-year course and the purpose of that 20-year course of the North American Ocean Providence. Now, when that happened, when that 20-year course, ended, when that 20-year mark ended, right? There was a large expo that True Parents had held at Belvedere in New York. So what exactly was that 20-year anniversary expo of the United States Ocean Providence? Let's take a look at what happened in that event. So when, where, and who, right? The 3 W's. So the 20-year anniversary expo of the United States of Ocean Providence was held on August 1st, 1994 at Belvedere in New York, gathering true children and leaders from all over the world. And it was basically an expo that featured all of True Parents' achievements during that past 20 years in the United States. And at this event, True Father gave a speech titled The Development of Oceanic Realm, which we're going to be talking about more in the future. So here are some pictures, right? True Father looks very happy, right? Smiling. So this is the location where it happened, right? It happened at Belvedere, which is very close to East Garden, True Parents' residence. So this is kind of a walkthrough of the whole event, right? This is the entrance to Belvedere. There were a lot of decorations, a lot of investment, right? When you walked onto the field, there's this huge banner, right? The 20th anniversary of the Ocean Providence with big True Parents picture. And this is a picture of all the staff. I heard from my mom that, all the staff there were absolute, they pulled all-nighters for this, right? To make this event a success. Right? A lot of people came, a lot of cars, a lot of decorations. And this is all the people lining up in order to just register. And, if you look all the way in the back there, it's continues on. And this is them registering, getting tickets. Yeah, they had different little booths, right, as seen on TV, things like that. In the middle, right in front of one of the houses, they had, they were displaying a lot of the boats. This is the main pavilion with 1,000 chairs. This is basically the car that True Family was arriving in at the commemorative event, where everyone was kind of moving to the side to welcome them. And this is them coming out. It's True Father. And then so they had a tape cutting ceremony, and True Father signed the tape. And then they started proceeding to the actual exhibitions. This is True Parents. They look at the boats being displayed. I think this is one of the very historical boats called Sea Helper. Yeah. This is One Hope One, Flying Phoenix, and Go Rich, all very historical, very legendary boats. This is New Hope. And then Master Marine had their own tents and displaying all these different boats. It's True Parents. I think they might have been selling it, either that or they were just, displaying the price. And then this is the 20 years history exhibition. And True Parents, went around the exhibition together with True Children. Yeah, so this is kind of a wall of like pictures and images and explanation of all these different investments that True Parents did, right? You can see True Parents are really enjoying looking at all the history. A lot of pictures, a lot of historical pictures. And there are even like fishing rods being displayed. They even had sorry. They had like actual tuna there. Frozen tuna. True Mother's touching it. They even had live tanks with actual fish in them. Yeah, and they also had, the different food products that the different various businesses were, made and produced. And this is fish powder. If you can see on the far right, there's like sacks of fish powder. And you can see True Mother, she's like, whoa. Everyone looks really happy, excited. And then this is True Parents arriving at the actual event hall stage. A lot of really nice decorations. And that's a lot of people. But yeah, it's people from all around the world, right? So this is True Parents greeting the participants. This is some cute background decoration. I think this is prayer. And then some leaders, they were giving some speeches. And yeah, True Father also gave a commemorative speech with a big smile. And there were a lot of really famous and legendary leaders back then too, who were there at the event, right? So in this picture, you can see Mr. Oyamada, Mr. Kamiyama, and Mr. Furuta, who are representatives from Japan. They had a lot of there were also a lot of Korean leaders, a lot of American leaders, people from all over the world. True Mother's taking some notes. True Father, he's really happy. Some really nice pictures. This is True Parents accepting the 20th year anniversary flower bouquets. Right? And then this is them doing the cake cutting ceremony for the commemorative event. I think the cake is really cute. There's a lot of fish. There's even fishermen on some of the cake parts. This is True Parents accepting a commemorative plaque from the representatives from Japan. Right? And this is a trophy that True Parents were handed. It's a guy with a fishing pole in one hand and a divine principle in the other. Very nice trophy. It's just a photo of people there. So then, during that same event, right, True Father gave the speech Development of the Oceanic Realm, right? And the speech contained the following contents, right? Number one was an explanation of a concrete plan, right? The actual plan that would permanently solve world hunger. And number two, an explanation about why he invested into boat development, right? Many people wonder, why did your father invest so much into building boats, right? Despite the fact that it's a very costly industry, right? But he still did it, and he explains why in the speech. And point number 3, right? He, proposes the method to shorten the providence of restoration. So we're not going to go into detail of this during this session, but we're going to be talking about it more in detail during the next coming sessions. So this is kind of Truffaut's plan step by step that was outlined in that speech. Right, so it was kind of divided into 2 parts. One was about distribution of food, which included things like transportation, distribution, tourism, right, the global market transcending borders. And part 2 was about sharing technology, which was kind of about aquaculture and sharing, and educating about, different skills like fishing, hunting, agri and aquaculture, right? And all of that was basically to solve global hunger and poverty, to reach that ultimate goal of achieving world peace and unification. So in Truffaut's speech, that we're going to be talking about next session, was really this very clear step-by-step outline of what he was planning to do. So a summary of all the things that we, took a look at, right? So the 20th anniversary expo for United States Ocean Providence, it was basically a summation of the 20-year period and a stepping stone to start the South American Ocean Providence. So your parents invited your children, leaders from around the world, and many members to speak to them about that overall plan of the Ocean Providence for the future, almost like catching them up on what the plan was, right? So your father revealed that direction of the future that time. And that was the significance of that 20 years and that expo event itself. Thank you for listening. That's it.